And I just welcome us to this session of Rainbow 50 Plus for the very first one in 2025. We are so excited to see everyone this brand new year. And we are kicking off this year with our Winter Awareness Workshop. My name is Abimbola. Many of you know me, but for those who are joining us online, probably you're meeting me for the first time. I say hello and welcome to Rainbow 50 Plus. By way of introduction, we want to look at a few statistics with respect to what happens over the winter months. And I'm having this as a question, and the question is, how many older people die of preventable cold-related illnesses over winter months? I just want us to think about this for maybe 1 or 2 seconds and then try to reflect on this. We'll have time to go over why this should be so, or how and why. But for now, I'm able to say fairly confidently, because this is what research says, that 25,000 older people die over the winter months in the UK. Just in the UK, 25,000 people die of cold-related illnesses. And that, when we break it down, says 1 older person in every 7 minutes. That is not good enough. That is not good enough. And this is why it's so important for us to do something about it and to have this discussion that we're having today. So to protect ourselves and avoid unnecessary illnesses. So it is so important for us to look at a few guidelines. What can we do? How can we prevent these deaths? Is there anything we can do as extra? Is there any extra knowledge we can glean from what is being discussed? I know we've done this before. We've discussed it in a slightly different way, but today is going to come. We're trying to approach it from a slightly different angle. Our motto is to live well and age well. We're living well, we're aging well, but over the winter months, it's not exactly how we want to live that we live. Well, we're still coping, but we don't want any illness to come and stop us from living well. So I'll just go over some of the points, and let's see if we're able to glean any new thing. So we'll be looking at some of the risks for us as older people during the winter months. And the first risk I will highlight here is inactivity. Inactivity. We were having a discussion just before we started this workshop, and we said last week was bitterly cold, with temperatures falling below minus. So, and I overheard people say, I did not even go out at all. Even at home, I stayed under the duvet. And that is what, happens over the winter months. You don't feel like going out at all. But even while indoors, we can still do a number of things. We can try not to sit still for more than an hour. Every hour or so, get up, walk around, make yourself a hot drink. And if walking is difficult, you can do some chair-based exercises. Saying that, I said earlier that I did not do much exercises. But being honest, I remember watching the telly, I made sure I was doing chair-based exercises, particularly moving my legs and trying to get them, flexible, not just sat there and, looking around. So we can do as much as we want, as we are able to. If you are still able to climb stairs, it's a good idea. Go upstairs, try to leave a few stuff upstairs, leave your phone there for 5 minutes, walk up, go get it, leave it downstairs for 10 minutes, come downstairs, get it, leave the kettle, go back, switch it on, make yourself tea. Don't bring the kettle closer to yourself. It's always a good idea to find an excuse, to move around. So stay active at home. I know it's totally different from what obtains over the summer months. Over the summer, you go in the garden, you potter around, you tend the flowers, but over the winter months, it's not exactly the same. The next one I will talk about is the risk of poor nutrition. The risk of poor nutrition. So it's a no-brainer that over the winter months, it's not just moving around that is a challenge. Even getting into the kitchen to cook would also be a challenge. But it's important for us to have at least one hot meal a day. I know many of us would rather have hot meals alone. If you're like me, I can't even think of a meal if it's not hot. It's got to be hot. If it's not hot, it goes in the microwave, or I leave it for the summer months. So it's important for us not to eat cold meals, because every little thing we can do helps our bodies to keep warm and to remain warm. So as well as hot drinks, tea, coffees, and so on, your green tea is also beneficial, and all the herbal teas, if you like them, just keep them, make sure they're hot, and it keeps the body warm. Then it's important to eat nutrient-dense foods. Again, this morning, as we all came in, we were having a chat around eating more vegetables. We were talking about kale, we were talking about carrots, we were talking about, all our greens, spinach, and so on and so forth. And this is so important because the body tends to lose immunity over the winter months, because the body is fighting off colds, fighting off flus, fighting off so many things, and the body needs to draw on the reserve in terms of the nutrient-dense foods that we are eating. So you may not like your carrot, cold. You could boil it. You could boil it slightly. You could, in fact, we have now formed the habit of boiling and blending our carrots. Just blend it and have it as a drink. It's so tasty. I find it really, really tasty. Just anything that will improve the nutrition and boost the immune system is so welcome, so that you avoid the risk of poor nutrition. As well, it's important for us not to forget to eat, because as people get older, sometimes they forget to eat. They don't feel hungry as they used to be. Many of us are not yet quite there. I have not got to that point. I still get hungry when I'm hungry. But being on the weight makes people more susceptible to infections. And so it's good to remember to eat and not fall below the weight that is healthy. So it's good to keep this in mind. Then the next risk I want to talk about is the risk of poor housing. The risk of poor housing. It's important to keep our home at a safe temperature. We don't want the temperature to fall too cold. And again, it's not good to be too hot as well. That could also be a risk. But now we want to emphasize being too cold. The house should be heated at least 21 degrees Celsius during the day and 18 degrees Celsius at night. If the temperature falls too low, it could be dangerous. And sometimes we are not aware of the dangers, especially at night when one has fallen asleep. It could really be, it could be life-threatening. It could be life-threatening. I've had the experience before. It could be life-threatening when the temperature is too low and there is no duvet and people sleep off, or they just throw the duvet to one side and the temperature is freezing. So saying that as well, it leads us straight to the next point, the risk of hypothermia. Hypothermia is when the body temperature drops, to a level that poses health risk, when it's critically low. So it is a risk, and it's something we should avoid very, very seriously. And along that line as well is the risk of frost bites, especially for people who stay outdoors or people who work outdoors. Frost bites, I did not know that it could be a potentially serious illness, if I would call it illness or condition. So again, it's caused by extreme cold. It could cause damage to skin, and it could even penetrate and go into the bone. Frost bites, they're quite nasty. And the first place one would begin to notice the effects of frostbite would be in all the extremities, maybe the nose, the ears, the cheeks, fingers and toes, and but while out there, it's so important to cover up well, and if possible, layers upon layers. I was having a chat just now that when we started the exercises, I had to take off 2 layers. I had 3 layers of tops. So just keep on the layers. How do you notice that frost bites are coming up? You could notice a change in the color of the skin. If you are white-skinned, the skin could go really, really, really pale or dark. Even if you are dark-skinned like myself, the skin will be darker. You will actually notice it. And that is not a good sign at all. That is not a good sign. We should all be aware of frostbites, and if possible, for older people, we may avoid walking in the snow or working outdoors altogether. The next one is that I want to talk about is trip hazard. So for those of us living in the UK, we noticed that the whole of last week there was so much snow. In the last 3 days, the snow started to melt, and that is where we have more hazards. Because when ice is melting, when snow is melting, it turns to ice, and it tends to be much more slippery, particularly when one steps on it. So it's important to wear shoes with a good grip, and also to be aware that when we are coming from outside, our shoes, even the ones with good grip, tends to bring in some of the ice indoors, and then it becomes as well a trip hazard. There is the risk of falls. So we should try and be aware of all of this and find ways of preventing them. If our shoes pick up pieces of snow or ice, we could have foot mats and spend a moment or so to sort of wipe the sole of your shoes on the foot mat to make sure that you get off all the ice to avoid every risk of fall. The next one I want to talk about, the next risk is the risk of carbon monoxide poisoning. As much as we have all the good intentions, sometimes when the weather is extremely cold, we tend to heat up the home. We bring in extra heaters, like gas heaters, to heat up the home. I know some older people actually like the color kind of gas to heat their home, but the risk there is that gas may escape. Gas may escape, and this releases carbon monoxide. Even the boiler we have at home, when they are not functioning well, they release carbon monoxide, and the fireplace as well could be a point where carbon monoxide could be released. So we must be aware of this. If you are staying at home and you're using your gas or your fireplace or even the kitchen, the cooker, the gas is escaping, how would you know that you stand the risk of carbon monoxide poisoning? When you are feeling that headache, You cannot explain it. You are heating your home is quite warm, and then headache is there. You feel weak, there could be nausea, there could be vomiting, sometimes dizziness, and a bit of confusion is setting in, and at the extreme of it, there could be loss of consciousness. These risks are there, and they are all associated with us trying to keep warm or trying to avoid the cold. It's always a good investment to have a carbon monoxide detector at home. You know, we will always do well if we have a carbon monoxide detector. With a carbon monoxide detector, you are able, some of them come with alarm. So when the levels are too high, the alarm goes off. I have one like that at home, and there are different ones. You know, it's worth investing in. It's worth investing in. And for our bedrooms or the spaces where we use, let's make sure that the vents, the double glazed windows now, they have the vents just to release some of the dangerous levels of carbon monoxide. Let's make sure that the vents are open. Let's not shut the vents as well as the window, because we know we are breathing in oxygen and we are releasing carbon dioxide. So just to make sure that the level of carbon monoxide, we don't stand the risk of carbon monoxide poisoning. The next one I would like to talk about is also to take care when driving, particularly when we have snow and when the weather is not very good. It's important for us to leave plenty of time for our journeys. This is not the time to rush. Oh, I'm late, I'm running late, I need to drive really fast. We know what happens with the tire grips. It's not easy to brake at this time. So over the winter months, those are risks that we stand. So let's be aware as well, even in our cars, to keep emergency kits, warm clothes, food, water, built, just in case of a breakdown at such, and even a spade, and of course something to clear the windscreen and so on, because all of this could put people at risk if there is a breakdown. So let's just be aware of this. And then coming to the end of it now, the last point I want to talk about is the risk that we could be exposed to while in crowded spaces. Yes, we encouraging one another to be out and about and not just stay at home, but as well, let's just be aware that with crowded spaces, there's the risk of infection spreading or germs spreading. I was sharing with somebody, I had to go to the hospital. Honestly, to see somebody, I had my mask. In fact, at the time they were not saying, now I think in many of the hospitals, they're saying, if you are coming to visit, please wear your masks. And I think that is sound advice. Please, if you have any reason to visit anyone in the hospital, wear your mask. Because our hospitals in the UK now, they are packed full of people. Last week, it was the local hospital here in Liverpool. The closest one to us was like, there was a fun fair going on. There were too many people. And I just thought, what's happening? So it's good as well to maintain social distancing in crowded spaces, even though many of us don't want to hear that word anymore because of the way we associate it with COVID. But being honest, it is not just about COVID. Don't let, when you're having a conversation, please don't move too close to people. Just maintain safe distance so that we are not spreading whatever infections we don't want to spread. Yes, we already talked about the face mask when we visit our GPs, when we visit the hospital, and when we go shopping. It's always a wise idea to put on our face mask. Thank you very much for participating. At this point, I will just pause and we will have a hearty discussion. Any questions? Any contributions?